According to the folks on the beach, my snorkel gave out an elephant roar, and I practically ran across the top of the water.
Ron Sharp is an actor and an artist from Southern California and a fellow traveler. He's a fantastic human being and a whole lot of fun to be around, as I know personally. This week's episode of the Travel Tourist Podcast featuring Ron Sharp. Let's do it! Hey everybody, what's up? This is Jonathan Redmond, the travel tourist, and my guest today is one of my classmates from a tour director course I took on the Norwegian Dawn back in November 2016, Mr. Ron Sharp.
Hey guys, how you doing?
So, Ron, how you been? Where are you right now?
I am in Riverside, California. It's actually my hometown. It's about an hour east of Los Angeles, and it's a very quaint little, quaint little California sort of suburby town.
I bet it's a lot warmer than it is in Canada right now.
You know what, man? It's a bit overcast today. I'm going to say it's about 65 degrees. I'm sure that it's still warmer than where you are.
It's, I think it was about 10 degrees Celsius today, whatever that is, 40 maybe.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
That's cool.
yeah, and it's rainy and kind of chilly and very damp. And I'm really excited because I'm getting I'm actually expecting my drone to arrive tomorrow. So I'm hoping it's nice enough that I can take it out for a flight. And, but anyway, I digress. This is about you. So kind of putting you on the spot here. Tell me a bit. I mean, I've given everybody an introduction to who you are prior to this, and but maybe you could tell me a bit more about who you are, what you do, how do you manage to start traveling, what gave you the bug, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I'm an artist and performer. Um, and I work here in Southern California. I am a painter and a muralist. I've done several Shakespeare plays. I do like. I'm a bit of an Anglophile, so the work that I do is
Sorry, you said doo-doo. I have to
usually.
laugh.
Yeah, I know. I said doo-doo. I apologize. I realized that when I said it, and I hope that
It's all good.
I hope I hope you didn't catch it. But yeah, gosh, how I got the travel bug. When I was a child, we made a lot of trips. We did a lot of camping. We went to, really all over the country. When I was little, we would do things like rent a motorhome and drive to Wyoming, or I have relatives in Texas, so we spent a lot of time driving through Arizona, New Mexico, stopping off to see the sights, the Grand Canyon. Every chance we took, we took it. My parents' business took off in the early '80s, and I was afforded the opportunity to go to places like Hawaii, 4 or 5 times when I was younger, and I just sort of developed this need to go. Um, I wasn't quite comfortable just sort of sitting in one place all the time, and when I had the opportunity to go on a student backpacking tour through Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East, um, when I was 18. I took it and I ran with it.
How long was that for? How long did you get to go for on that?
I got to go for 3 months.
3 months on a school backpacking trip.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm so jealous.
I started in London. Well, I was a fresh-faced kid, and we were all chaperoned, so it wasn't like we were completely out in the open. It was a high school sponsored trip, but I was lucky enough to be able to go. Not everybody can go. You know, hiking through Europe, most people have to get themselves a job. Um, my parents had enough money where they were able to give me this gift, and there's a huge difference traveling between traveling when you're a child and traveling when you're an adult. I've been through England, France, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, Tunisia, Egypt, Israel, Turkey, and Greece, and it was uh, it was extremely overwhelming. I didn't feel like I had any tethers to my home. I was out in the world, um, sort of exploring the things that I was curious about. And by the time I was finished with the trip, I was ravenous for more.
That's interesting because you were actually almost leading me to believe that it was a negative sort of experience for you until you said that. So
No, no, not negative at all. I just, I shouldn't say negative. It wasn't, it absolutely wasn't negative. I was able to sort of let my curiosity go crazy. And that, led me to divert from many of the tours that I was scheduled for. You go to a place like Florence and they want you to go on the scheduled tour with the group. I pulled out of that a lot of the time, and I would wander off on my own because I just even back then I was an artist, and a place like Florence is full of things that maybe I want to see, but they're not on the tour. So, not knowing when I was going to have the opportunity to take advantage of these, um, I, uh, I did divert from the plan quite often.
that's awesome that they would actually allow you to do that as well.
I, you know, I sort of, I never got in trouble. I never drank heavily. I didn't get into any drugs. I wasn't, promiscuous or anything during that tour, and I tried to hold myself to a standard that was, people could look at me and say, "Oh, he's trustworthy," and yeah, I got to free wheel a lot.
So when you say that you didn't feel tethered or that you were missing the tethers, does that mean like you felt a little homesick or just that you actually enjoyed the fact that you weren't tethered?
No, I love the fact that I wasn't tethered.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just wanted to
That
clarify
was a
that. Okay,
completely new experience to me.
that's awesome. So we met in November 2016 in the same classroom on a cruise ship in the middle of the Caribbean, taking this tour director course,
Yes, we did.
which was awesome, by the way. I highly recommend it if you ever have any desire to become a tour director. International Guide Academy. I will put the link to their website on the show notes just because I've mentioned it now. Uh, they're fabulous. Anyway, so since
I agree. I fully endorse them.
since we met, where have you been?
Well, since we've met, I have been here in Southern California. I've had some health challenges. Um, I have a bad heart, and so uh, my eyes are bigger than my stomach. If you understand my meaning,
I understand completely.
yeah, I have. Uh, it's been a rough last couple of years since I met you. I've been in recovery.
You did go to Greece, if I remember correctly,
Yes,
though,
I did. Yes, I
with
did.
with two of our classmates,
I did. I did, and
which I was trying desperately to tag along, and I just couldn't at the time. But
we missed you. We spent a lot of time discussing, how we would love to have, more of our graduating class in that excursion. You know,
That would have been so fun. There was some really great people in that group. So, okay. So, let me ask you, since you know what this podcast is about, and I'm not going to repeat myself as I continually do, but can you give me some positive experiences, some funny stories that you've had throughout your travels, regardless of when or where?
yeah, I can. Let me think here for a second. In 2008, I had the opportunity to go to Western Australia for a few weeks, and I connected with a tour guide there, and we hit it off. I went to go visit, this person, and we uh, we became very close, and we stayed in Perth a lot of the time. But outside of Perth, outside of Fremantle, there's a small island uh, called what is it called? One moment, hang on, having a brain fart. Rottnest Island. Please edit that out. Rottnest
Sorry,
Island.
what was that? Rotten Assed Island?
I said, please edit that out. So we when we got down the coast to Perth, we went to Rottnest Island almost immediately, and there was a small hotel on the island with bungalows. We stayed there, and on Rottnest there are many, many wonderful things to see. Snorkeling and scuba diving are a huge pastime there. You can pretty much ride your bike around this island and go swimming and look at beautiful coral formations and fish. Uh, as it's just you can spend day after day, traveling around this island and enjoying the sights and sounds.
How big is this island?
It is not large. I'm going to say 5 miles long.
Okay, and
Maybe
there's just coral reefs and whatnot all around it.
yes,
All
yes.
yeah.
And we went to this place called Little Parakeet Bay. Little Parakeet Bay is a cove that is completely surrounded by cliff formations. It has a gentle beach, sort of in the lee of the cliffs, and out in the bay in the cove are tremendous coral formations with riotous colors, riotous amounts of fish there. And I'm from Southern California. I enjoy a good snorkel, and so we went out into the water, and for a half an hour, I'm kicking around. I'm following little schools of fish. I am so happy. I am in heaven with my flippers on and my mask on, and I could just stay there all day. And as I'm chasing down a school of fish, um, I catch something out of the corner of my eye, and what it looks like when you take an ice cube and you put it in a glass of water, and you look at that, and it's just sort of a shape. It's you can't. It's translucent, and you can see through it, but you can't. And I noticed something that fit that description. It caught my eye, and I looked, and I squinted at this thing, and as soon as I squinted at it, it realized itself as a fish-shaped box jellyfish.
Ouch.
2 moments later, I saw all the rest of them. There were thousands of them completely surrounding me on all sides.
Oh my god.
Now, according to the folks on the beach, My snorkel gave out an elephant roar, and I practically ran across the top of the water to get to the shore. Now, I know that I didn't run across the top of the water, but there was much thrashing, much screaming. And when I got to the beach, there's a dozen or two blokes and their wives laughing their backsides off at me, um, offering to pee on me, uh, giggling because I went out too far and they knew exactly what I'd done. And I was, as usual, I was the ugly American tourist without ever intending to be. And after that, when I would eat in the little local restaurants on that island, at least one or two people would recognize me as the American with all the jellyfish things on his legs. Because apparently the upper part of my body did not catch anything. But from about mid thigh down, slathered in jellyfish stings.
And can you explain what one of those feels like?
It's like to me it felt like someone had a whip made of needles. And every one of them pointed in the direction of my legs. So it just, when I got out of the water, you could see little sort of traces of stings all over, trails of tiny holes that were getting larger and becoming more inflamed. It was quite painful for a few days.
So the real question is, would you go back in that water again?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wouldn't go out as far as I went because apparently there's a line of jellyfish out there. But
and they're just waiting for Ron to return, like the people in the restaurant. That's awesome.
Oh, but I've done a lot of stupid things all over the world.
Do tell.
And those are really the stories.
I was mentioning this to Fiona also, who was a previous guest, that I always thought, maybe, I don't know why really, but sometimes the most difficult experiences are some of the best stories later on. I mean, obviously, like most people know, you have a bad experience and you can laugh about it later.
Right.
It's the same way about travel stories. You can, you get lost or something bad happens and it ends up being the best stories.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. When I was moving through Switzerland with my tour group when I was younger, we were backpacking through Switzerland, and we were staying in Interlaken at a hostel there. And it was the 4th of July, which is an American, Independence Day. That's our holiday. Rolled around, and we all decided that we were going to have a 4th of July party, down near the lake. Well, cut to all of these kids, completely debauched, drinking, shooting off fireworks from, everything that we could find to put a rocket in. We were shooting them off out of it. I was firing them from my teeth like a complete moron. My entire face was black like Wile E. Coyote after an explosion. And I was drunk. I just thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Cut to the next morning. We're all in the hostel bed, and one of my friends is face down. Let's just say, we had to roll him over because he'd been sick all through the night. We found another of our friends in a drainage culvert. It had snowed that night, and we were lucky to go, track him down and pull him out of there and get him someplace safe. But I don't, I would love to go to Interlaken again. That would be wonderful. I miss that place. Not so keen on doing all the stupid things that we all did then and there.
Like kids do.
Like kids do. I mean, we were kids. We were dumb. I was a dumb kid. What are you going to do?
I love Switzerland. It was one of the first places I was ever at, also. And similar to you, I had parents that really loved traveling as well. And we had an old VW bus, and we'd go out and travel around all over Canada and down through the States. And my mother brought us over to Europe when I was 10 years old at the time. And ever since then, I just can't get enough of it. And Switzerland was right up there. I still remember like coming back 5 years later and saying I wanted to go back to Adelboden and I wanted to see the Grimsel Pass again. And to this day, my dream is to live in the mountains of Switzerland, you know. So I understand the love of Switzerland. It's just an incredible place.
It's just a dream, you
Yeah.
know. You take the Jungfraujoch, or the train that goes to the top of the Jungfrau Mountain, and you are just everything outside the window is a fairy tale bit of magic. You
Yeah.
know, you have, these Fachwerk houses and waterfalls are shooting from the side of the mountain, and there's just these gorgeous green fields. It's like, it's straight out of Heidi or something. It's you can't imagine something that beautiful, and it's just there. The people just live there, which blows my mind.
Yeah.
It,
I know. It's funny too. Like I was just thinking as you were saying that, like there are a lot of people that, they watch YouTube or, look
uh,
at different travel websites and whatever. And yeah, it's beautiful and whatnot, and there's something to be said for that. But I've gotten to the age now and to the point now, I guess, that when I'm going somewhere, I will actually do as little research as much as possible because I don't want to
exactly.
go to the place that I've seen in all the YouTube videos and whatnot. And there's just no substitute for actually being in these places, you know.
No, and I like having my own experiences.
Yeah.
I like to have no expectations when I travel, none at all. You know, and when I arrive with no expectations, everything is a gift. Um, everything you see is a learning experience. You have tremendous opportunities when you travel to learn about other cultures and meet people. I want to have my slate blank when I do that.
Yeah. And you can't be disappointed when you have no expectations.
Exactly.
And more often than not, they're going to exceed whatever expectations you would have had anyway.
For sure. For sure. 10 times out of 10, I am overwhelmed with the amount of joy that I get from travel. That's why just a rabid addict.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to Big Sur this summer. It's a place midway up the California coast. It's, where the giant trees meet are on the cliff tops, and you've got the ocean right next to you, and it's very majestic. But the road to Big Sur collapsed in the fall due to, the tremendous amount of rain that they had there.
Right.
So that makes me sad. Hopefully they'll fix it in time for me to get up there. But
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's happening more and more all over the world, not just California. But
yeah, yeah,
yeah, we won't go there though. We all know about the environmental struggle.
yeah.
But so on the opposite side of the coin, would you have any experiences you want to share with us that maybe weren't so pleasant that you've learned something from?
Well, I mean, I can talk about a few. The only real unpleasant experiences that I've had were ones that I created myself. When you're young, again, the ugly American tends to come out. I made a very, very poor series of choices when I was in Rome for an evening, and wound up shaming myself and my companions at the time. I got drunk and I thought it would be clever on the way home from the pub. Uh, I shouldn't say drunk. I got tipsy. I got tipsy enough as a kid to make poor decisions, and I was trying to impress the girl that I was walking with, and I saw that all the license plates in Rome had had the word Roma on them, and I got excited, and I decided I wanted one. When I was younger, I was extremely strong. I'm 6'5" as it is. At the time, I was, somewhat of an athlete, and I was beastly strong. And so I casually leaned over and I ripped the license plate off the back of the car with my bare hands with one tug. Thought it was the greatest thing in the world. So I walked down the road until I found another one that was likely to come off. I ripped that one off too until I got 12 clanging around in my jacket as I was walking back to the hostel. At that time, I was super proud of myself. I did not realize the ramifications of what I was doing at all until I got to the print shop that was across the street from the hostel. There were gentlemen that were standing outside smoking cigarettes. They were gearing up, I'm sure, for the morning edition that was going out. It was 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, something like that. They heard me rattling, you know, and they might have seen me up the street uh, performing this act, this felony, you know, and they questioned me about it, and I immediately realized I sobered up immediately when I realized that I was probably going to go to jail. And I opened my coat, I let everything fall out, and I ran. I ran from those guys as fast as my legs could carry me. And I could hear them screaming behind me. I don't know where the girl went at all. You know, she's vanished.
Needless to say, she probably wasn't impressed.
No, she wasn't impressed at all. That's the point. Is I didn't impress anybody, and I brought great shame upon my house. And I scooted around the back of the hostel. I went in through the back door. I scaled over all of the laundry equipment and wound up in my room with my fellow travelers. And by the time I got back up to my room, the police gumball lights were strobing across our walls because our room overlooked the print house, and it was frightening. They didn't know where I was. Thank God they didn't come looking in the hostel, because I had run down the street and booked it into an alley. But I carry that around with me. That's not that's something that sort of that haunts me. Bad decisions when you travel will haunt you.
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky enough to get away, but I shouldn't have been lucky enough.
Wow.
And I wasn't brave enough at the time to turn myself in. I was leaving in another day, and I didn't want any. I didn't want. I didn't want. And you become. I was selfish, I guess. I don't know. I was a little criminal. I was a little criminal. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, but you're a teenager, mischievous.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
I wouldn't be too hard on myself. I mean,
yeah.
Just based on your age and where you were, and
yeah.
But there's definitely a lesson to be learned.
Yes. I also learned not to wave a lot of cash around anywhere.
Yeah.
Had that reinforced in Jamaica. I had a wonderful time in Jamaica when we went. Went and toured Bob Marley's house. You really gotta be careful when you flash money around in foreign places.
And they do tend to be pretty aggressive there too, in terms of trying to get your money in various different ways. Also, not just stealing it per se, but
no, that's what I mean. It's everything. It's let me braid your beard. Let me. I will clean your ears for you. Hey, look, here's a keychain with Bob Marley's face on it. Come on, just give me. Would you like a joint? I have 12. Please have some.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I had a guy throw a joint at me and then expect me to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was one person who went on the tour and actually decided that they were going to purchase a smorgasbord of marijuana, just a whole spray
Mm-hmm.
of marijuana. And well, you know, as I was walking back up the gangplank of the ship, I looked behind me, and she was being manhandled by security, by Jamaican police.
She was lucky enough. I remember who you're talking about, and she was lucky enough to get away with it.
Yeah, she did. Yes, exactly. She was lucky enough.
But I imagine that doesn't happen very often.
No, I don't know how that happened, quite honestly. I don't know how she got away with it. But anyway, um, no, just, poor decisions can, when you don't follow the rules, there are repercussions. And facing those repercussions in a place where you are devoid of all of your backups and checks,
Mm-hmm.
all of the resources that you would use normally to get you out of a situation like that are not available.
That's true.
And I can't stress enough
And you have a language barrier much of the time.
that yes, indeed, that is for sure. That is for sure.
Like I remember. I'm sorry. I'll just say this really quickly, but my first time traveling alone, I went to Mexico for 3 months, and
Wow.
I brought a type of traveler's check that they didn't understand. It wasn't American Express. I had a Visa traveler's check. Anyway, I was trying to find out where I can get these cashed, and I'm pointing at my money belt. I want to get these cashed. I want to get these cashed. Nobody understood what I was saying. To make a long story short, it went from me not knowing where to cash my checks to them thinking I was robbed to me then thinking that I had then robbed somebody. So I spent a good part of that day in Mexico City, which, if you've been, 21 million people at the time, and I'm just from a little town in Nova Scotia in Canada, it was pretty overwhelming. So I spent most of the day in that police station trying to find somebody to translate for me that no, I hadn't been robbed, I hadn't robbed anybody, that I'm actually just trying to get some money cashed for me. And it's little situations like that. Like I said, it's in hindsight, it's laughable, but at the time, it's terrifying.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I've never been to Mexico City. I would love to go. I've been to, several places in Mexico, but never as far as into the interior as Mexico City.
Well, I flew into there, and put it this way, after that event, I stayed as short a time as I had to.
Yeah.
I was on the next bus to Oaxaca and off to the beach.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Yeah.
So you've done a really good job of explaining and sharing some of your experiences and some of the goods and bads of travel. To me, it's all good. Any experience that you learn from, whether it be positive or negative. And I'm wondering if there's any last minute type of advice that you can give to somebody who might be an apprehensive adventurer.
Go. That's my advice, is go.
Just
stop drinking Starbucks for a month or 2 or 6.
That's right.
Save up your money, just a little, and go. Just go. I am never happier than when I'm traveling, even when, it's a little stressful. Even when things aren't exactly the way that I thought they should go or I imagined them to go. I still wind up laughing at how fortunate I am to be able to have that experience, and you will look back on your travel time as times that changed your life, whether it was for positive, whether it was for negative. It's it. I think that meeting new people, especially ones with different perspectives than yours from your home country. I think meeting different people, striking up friendships, or just listening to what they have to say, I had a waiter in Greece in a tiny mom and son operation. He was the waiter. She was behind the counter cooking, and their food was excellent. And he sat down for a couple of hours and just sort of let me know what it was like to be a Greek in Athens at that time.
That was during the time or shortly thereafter, after the economic meltdown in Greece, right?
Yes, yes. So we talked about the refugee crisis, and all the how the Germany was sort of trying to retrieve their money out of Greece, and um, it was an extremely enlightening conversation with somebody that I never I mean, who would have known? Who would have known? And I carry that conversation with me like every day. In some way, I touch back on it in my mind. There's something that that brings me around, and I do that constantly every day. And I would encourage people that if they have the itch, scratch it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And to touch on what you just finished saying, that we're so often sheltered, if you will, in our own little world, watching our news and everything that's happening in our own country, in our little part of our country, that we forget about all the struggles and even the good things that are happening in the rest of the world, because all we're hearing about is negativity about various places and various things. That there's so much good happening in the world that
Right.
it's a shame not to see it for yourself.
I completely agree. There's nothing more relieving to me than feeling my own country slip behind me, and all of those prejudices, that I've sort of been surrounded by, and the opinions and the small petty squabbles. When you get on that plane and it fades away behind you and the rest of the world opens its arms, uh, that is so exciting. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Well said, sir. Well said. So, final question. Is there a travel or life related quote that you live by or that you really appreciate?
Yeah, travel. I guess that there's nothing to it but to do it. Rings through my head often. When I get the bug, when I am curious about uh, a certain place or a certain culture. There's nothing to it but to do it. Is kind. I know that sounds really simplistic and maybe a little silly.
But that's the point, I think, is that it's so simple and yet so truthful.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is a Mark Twain quote. You might have heard it already. It goes, "Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness." And there's more to it, but that to me is the crux of travel to me. All right, I'm gonna throw one more on you because I feel like you have more to share. What are 3 things that you can't live without when you travel?
3 things that I can't live without. A good pair of shoes.
I thought you were gonna say good parachute.
No, good pair of shoes. Um, I really need a good medium weight jacket, and bring a backup pair of glasses. When we were in the Caribbean, we went through a storm towards the beginning of the trip, and my glasses flew off the nightstand and landed right on the path to the restroom. So me getting up in the middle of the night, stumbling to the restroom as fast as I could while the ship rocked around me. I crushed an $800 pair of glasses. So I didn't have any backups. I wore contact lenses for the rest of the trip.
Ouch.
And I really wish that I would have brought a second pair. Bring a second pair of glasses. And an open mind.
Amen, brother. That might be the best one and the most important one, though.
I agree.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to do this for us. And
My pleasure.
is there anything you want to share in terms of any places people can find you on social media, or you have any business going on that you want people to know about?
I don't have any business going on that's travel related at the moment.
I know you're a freelance. You're doing freelance tour directing at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. You can find me on Facebook and on Instagram as Ronald K. Sharp.
Awesome. Are you doing any plays in the upcoming?
I am currently in As You Like It, uh, which is sort of a Shakespeare light comedy. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of improv that's going on in this show. We are getting packed houses. It's great.
And is that in Riverside?
It's actually it's in Irwindale right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, which is about 20 minutes outside of Los Angeles. So, but I've just been cast, I think, in The Music Man.
Really?
So, yeah.
That's
They
awesome.
like me as Mayor Shin, I think.
Well, I look forward to hearing more about it. And again, thank you so much for doing this. And we'll be in touch, sir.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you very much. Good luck to you.
Thank you. So there you have it, episode number 3 in the books with Ron Sharp. If there's anything you need more information on this episode, please check out the traveltourist.com/Ron Sharp. Also, just to let you know, we will be extending the format of this podcast somewhat, where we will begin to talk about some of the history of various locations around the world, and specifically what made them the tourist destinations that they are today. So coming soon, we'll have a podcast specifically about the history of Paris and how that became one of the top destinations in the world, as well as Thailand, Venice, Sintra, Portugal, and others. Also, we'll be focusing on some of the more interesting cultural phenomenons that we know, such as the running of the bulls in Paloma, Spain, or the Oktoberfest festival that takes place in Germany, or the famous cheese rolling race where people slide and roll down the hill chasing a wheel of cheese in the UK. So that's what we'll be working on in the future. We wanted to expand a bit and really do some things that nobody else is really doing right now. So if you like this concept, if you like this idea, please subscribe on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Google Play, and hopefully soon on Spotify and wherever else that you happen to get your podcasts. So this is Jonathan Redman of the Travel Tours Podcast, thanking you so much once again for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.